Good morning, afternoon, and evening, ladies and gentlemen. And Bombers lose by a score of 37-16, and this game was a disaster. In terms of good takeaways I can get from this game, well, at least Brady Oliveira is healthy, and special teams look decent. Everything else was pretty bad. Bombers offensively, defensively, was just a disaster. Now, I'm not saying that Calgary didn't play well. Calgary did play well, but there was just a whole lot of nothing. I'm going to go through, but I'm going to kind of go through this relatively quick. Um, Calgary would win the toss. Winnipeg would end up, so they wanted possession right away. Winnipeg would get possession after halftime, which seemed like it might be something that could spark them to get going again, but it just couldn't. They were just so far in the hole, and they just hadn't made all the adjustments they needed to for it to matter. Brady Oliveira, of course, healthy for this game. Stamps will start off with a drive. Vern Adams Jr. throwing his first touchdown of the season, and immediately conversion good, 7-0 Calgary right off the hop. And on that play, Jake Thomas took a roughing the passer penalty. This penalty then applied to kickoff, which means that the Stamps would then get a single, making it 8-0 very quickly. Brady Oliveira gets a decent run. Bombers try pushing a bit. Randolph will take a holding penalty. Bombers are able to push it down. Wanted to respond right away, but they couldn't. All they would get is a field goal, 18-yarder from Sergio Castillo, makes it 8-3 for Calgary. Calgary tries to get it going. They're forced to punt. They would then go offside on a future play. And then Calera's trying to get something going. It's going to be a pick six. And that would be the first of two pick sixes that Calera's would throw tonight. And again, good defensive plays. But this first pick six is the one that's a little bit more egregious in the sense of, at least with the pick six later in the game, it's relatively predictable in the sense of, because of how far in the hole the Bombers are, getting the points you need and also not eating up too much clock was a priority, which basically meant that you couldn't utilize Brady Oliveira. Because that's the thing with basic Blue Bomber football is you get a big lead, and then you run the ball like crazy, and you're so goddamn good at it, you get so much possession time that they hardly get a chance to score. And even if they do, it's in garbage time. But the Bombers just couldn't do that because of how much in a hole they got very early early from the start. The convert would be good for Calgary, 15-3 for the Stamps. So right into that. Barnes is then out of the game. Not sure if it's like an injury or if it was more precautionary. Second quarter, Willie Jefferson going offside almost immediately. Stampeders really push. Defense, I'm just not impressed with it. Just not. That defensive line was not getting to VA. He was having a ton of time. And even with any time that they did, the secondary just kind of just sat back and just let them get these passes and completed. And they weren't dropping balls. We were dropping balls all game. They would grab themselves another touchdown. Convert is good. 22-3 Stampeders. Bombers are going nowhere again. And at this point, I'm like, special teams looks good, and that's about it. Stampeders just get back on offense. They're pushing it down. Touchdown again. It's just a disaster for Winnipeg. And holy crap, I'm thinking they got to stop the bleeding because they got to go in. They got to get something going a little bit going into halftime, and then they got to come out of halftime flying. And they had a little bit, but it just wasn't enough. And yeah, so they go up to 29-3. Bombers can't get it going, still having to punt that ball down. They would finally get a stop where they would make Calgary go 2-and-out, but it just felt like Calgary either, like for the most part, Calgary didn't have to punt for the first half of this game. And anytime they did, they would have driven the field so much that by the time we get the possession, we just can't get much going.
Or they punt for a single, in which case, what's the fucking point?
Yes, this is true. There'd be two holding penalties for Winnipeg on the exact same play. They'd try to get it going. Schoen will grab a first down. Bombers finally moving the ball a little bit. Only enough, though, for Sergio Castillo to hit a 20-yard field goal, making this 29-6 Calgary going into halftime. Brett Michaels playing the halftime show, lead singer of Poison, was playing it over in Calgary, so I imagine it was a decent halftime show. Third quarter, not a whole lot happening here. Bombers start with the ball. Schoen drops one that At first, I was pretty upset about it because it was extremely weak. They then show the replay to show that the sun was just blinding in his eye, to which it just wasn't going Winnipeg's way, to be completely real. Back and forth a little bit. Bombers drive it down. Castillo hits a 29-yard field goal, making it 29 to 9. Stamps would then start the drive. They'd punt it for a Rouge to make it 30 to 9 for Calgary. And then, yeah, in the fourth quarter, pick six on a very predictable play. The Bombers hadn't been able to get much going. Again, they're being forced to throw the ball. Brady Oliveira has kind of been neutralized in that sense because the Bombers' whole system relies on them getting a lead early. And so, because of that, Kevin Clercius has a relatively decent night, but it's because the Bombers are forced to making these kind of short passes because the deep ball was covered up a bit, and then by the time the Bombers were going for it, it was obvious that that was the play they had to do. Like they were just they just Calgary, they did their film. They did their film on Winnipeg, and they found the ways to exploit Winnipeg's systems. And the Bombers just they got too deep into that hole early on. It was just a disaster. And so pick six on literally the same play they had ran like 3 plays in a row. So in my opinion, it was a bit foolish in the sense of it was incredibly predictable. It was extremely vanilla. And so that allowed them to get it going again. Converse good, 37-9 Calgary. Disaster for Winnipeg. Legal contact on the receiver, penalty against the Stampeders. Calgary tries to challenge us, but it's not a challengeable play, but they still lose a timeout. Bombers would try pushing it a little bit. Shown a little slow to get up after a hit. Probably fine. I think he might have even played a little bit after that. I can't remember, but it doesn't look to be anything major, so that's good because that's the last thing you want in a nothing game like this. At that point, when you're behind by so much, you don't want any injuries. But Stamps would fumble it, and Parker recovers. Stearns drops an easy one. No sun in his eyes on this one. Not gonna lie, there was no excuse for that, but he would make a very nice catch later on. Bombers try to get something going. Corcoran with his first CFL catch. Bombers eventually able to grab a touchdown in the fourth quarter. Converse good, 37 to
Who
16.
got the touchdown, Carter?
Who got the touchdown? I didn't write that down.
Jared Stearns.
It
First
was.
touchdown as a Blue Bomber, baby.
This is true. This is true. He
And it's
would
a
get
nice
his.
catch.
Yeah, it was. Which again, like I said, that was kind of the one that made up for the one earlier. Walker goes in for the Stampeders. Streveler in for Winnipeg. Peterson in for Winnipeg. Everyone's kind of putting their backups in because this is a nothing game. You don't want any sort of injuries to your starters. Streveler takes a hit and gets a little bit of an extra shot after that. To be honest, I didn't really like it. Although Streveler seemed fine. He's a tough guy. And then that's basically it. Stamps win 37 to 16. So I'm not going to go on for too much longer on this. Bombers with a bye week next week, and then we play Calgary and Winnipeg. So get it back then. Right now, Calgary and Winnipeg same record, 3-1. You don't want to fall to third place. You definitely want to keep this going. So Calgary does play next week. Let me see who they're playing against. They play Saskatchewan next week, so I'm not sure if it's better for Calgary or Saskatchewan to win that game. To be honest, I don't really care in the sense of at the end of the day, my hope is that Winnipeg can get through the West and be at the top of that. But yeah, this is a game that you bury and forget. And you make sure that you don't come up flat like that. The Bombers were not prepared for this game. They weren't. So you have a bye week, use it, rest up any injuries, anyone who's a little roughed up, get back to practicing, work your ass off, and put up a much better performance at home. Bombers are a lot better at home, and so hopefully that's what we see in the next game. So thank you guys so much for tuning into this video. Make sure you guys leave a like, share it around, and subscribe if you haven't already. And leave a comment down below on your thoughts on the game. I thought it sucked. So let's hear it down below. So peace, love, and positivity, all you wonderful people at home. We will see you guys next time.